Welcome to Bias Bash. I'm Cal Thomas, syndicated columnist and Fox News contributor. In a statement following the death of Cuban dictator Fidel Castro, President Obama spoke of the countless ways in which Castro altered the course of individual lives, families, and of the Cuban nation. Well, that's an understatement, as the thousands who have risked their lives over the years to escape from Cuba have testified. The president added, "History will record and judge the enormous impact of this singular figure on the people and world around him." But why wait on history? We can judge him now. For 6 decades, the left, which includes the major media, have lauded Castro as a secular savior, seeing only what they wanted to see and reporting only what the Cuban government wanted them to report. Examples are legion, but this one is typical. In February 1988, the State Department named Cuba one of the world's biggest human rights oppressors. NBC News reporter Ed Rabel visited Havana to check it out. Rich Noyes of the Media Research Center writes, NBC's conciliatory approach allowed Castro to spew lies about his drug connections and the wonderful achievements of the Cuban Revolution. Rabel reported, there is, in Cuba, government intrusion into everyone's life from the moment he is born until the day he dies. The reasoning is that the government wants to better the lives of its citizens and keep them from exploiting or hurting one another. On a sunny day in a park in the old city of Havana, it is difficult to see anything that is sinister. End of quotation. Over the years, Hollywood celebrities made pilgrimages to Havana. Each time, they marveled at the supposed excellence of Cuba's medical care and quality of education. In the immediate aftermath of Castro's death, the pattern was repeated. Typical was Andrea Mitchell, who gushed on MSNBC, quote, Castro gave his people better health care and education. Mitchell and other Castro disciples apparently never read a July 2007 article in National Review titled, The Myth of Cuban Health Care. The magazine was among many publications that destroyed the notion of outstanding health care in Cuba, noting that the country offers 3 medical tiers. One tier is for celebrities and tourists, requiring payment in hard cash to help bolster the regime. The second tier is for Cuba's top government officials. The third tier is for everybody else, which the magazine called wretched. Hospitals and clinics are crumbling. Conditions are so unsanitary, patients may be better off at home, whatever home is. If they do go to the hospital, they must bring their own bed sheets, soap, towels, food, light bulbs, even toilet paper. And basic medications are scarce. Finding an aspirin can be a chore, and an antibiotic will fetch a fortune on the black market. As for excellence in Cuba's education, a February 2015 article in The Atlantic punctured that myth. It said, under Fidel Castro, education became universal, but he also stipulated that anyone who received this education would have to actively promote government policies both during and after their schooling. They would also be required to take government-approved courses that didn't tolerate any criticism of socialism as a way of life. In other words, education was seen as key to the revolution taking hold and creating a literate population loyal to the government. The left, so concerned about human rights in America and other non-communist countries, ignores their violations in Cuba. As Human Rights Watch noted earlier this year, quote, the Cuban government continues to repress dissent and discourage public criticism. While in recent years it has relied less on long-term prison sentences to punish its critics, short-term arbitrary arrests of human rights defenders, independent journalists, and other critics have increased dramatically. Other repressive tactics employed by the government include beatings, public acts of shaming, and the termination of employment, unquote. President-elect Donald Trump's statement was more direct and accurate than President Obama's. Trump said, today, the world marks the passing of a brutal dictator who oppressed his own people for nearly 6 decades. Fidel Castro's legacy is one of firing squads, theft, unimaginable suffering, poverty, and the denial of fundamental human rights, unquote. Much of the media have ignored or underreported Castro's record for 6 decades. That record should be history's judgment. For more media analysis, be sure to watch Media Buzz with Howard Kurtz Sunday at 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm Cal Thomas. Thanks for joining me on Bias Bash.